Hey, what's going on, champs? I'm Aaron Deliosa. Welcome to an Immigrants Life podcast, my podcast about immigrants and immigration and everything in between. Thank you for listening and downloading the show, and thank you for supporting my dad.
This week is the anniversary episode of An Immigrant's Life, and I did some self-reflections, and I'd like to give some shout-outs to some people that made this podcast possible and going. Of course, my family and friends for their continued support. Special shout-out to my friend Greg for introducing me to podcasting, which planted the seed in my head to start my own podcast. To my friend Alex for inspiring me and donating the mic for the podcast. I still owe you that $75. I promise you I'm going to pay you someday. I want to thank my former guest and my future guest for spending their time and sharing their incredible personal stories. I really do appreciate it. And most importantly, to you, the listener. Without you, this podcast will just crumble and burn to obscurity. I want to thank some of you that sent me gifts. Ildefonso for the cycling shoes, Marcor for the chocolates, Henna for her beautiful artwork, for Melissa and her husband for being my first ever sponsors. Oh, by the way, if you are someone you know that loves organic candles or body soaps, check them out on www.driftwoodnaturals.ca. They're awesome people. The products are amazing. So support, And again, thank you all. And please continue supporting An Immigrant's Life, as I really love to continue this project for as long as I'd like. Enough sentimentals. Let's talk about the episode. Like I said, this is the anniversary episode of the podcast, so I prepared a very special guest for you all. You loved her before, and you will love her again. So, without further ado, let's get into the show. Isa, dalawa, tatlo. Since it's the anniversary of the podcast, I figured I should bring a very special guest. Unfortunately, Priyanka Chopra is not available, so I brought in the next best thing. Coming from Canada's capital, Ottawa, Ontario, in way of the wild plains of Nairobi, Kenya, everyone please welcome back the Safari Rāṇī, Shital Patel.
Yay!
What's going on?
Nothing much. How's it going?
Good. I miss you, man.
Yeah, I missed you as well. It's nice to see your face.
I know. We always talk on Instagram or whatever, but it's nice to, chit chat.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Thank you for coming back again.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's very exciting. Am I your first double booked guest?
Yeah. No, because, when you told me you're coming back to Canada, I'm like, oh, shit, let's talk about that.
Yes, I'm very excited at the opportunity to talk about this.
For sure, for sure. For the listeners, Shital was the episode 16th guest. So let's give the listeners a quick background about you and how you end up in Kenya and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, I guess 5 years ago, I started dating a guy. His name was Mark, and great guy. And he told me like a few months into us dating that he got a job posting in Kenya, of all places. And so since then, he moved to Kenya. We did about a year and a half of long distance. And then in 2019, I packed up my stuff and I went to join him there. It was only supposed to be a 1-year gig in Nairobi, and it turned into almost 2.5 years that I spent there. And so we just recently returned home from that amazing adventure.
That's awesome. I know you're a traveler. Was Kenya on your list of places to go?
No, not at all. And yeah, you're right. Like I love traveling and I've traveled all over the place, but I never thought that I would, maybe like later on in life, I would at some point make it to Africa, but I never really thought about it. And then all of a sudden, that's where I lived. That's the first time I've ever lived abroad, and that's where I lived. And it was amazing to think about.
That's awesome. Were you scared that you get malaria or some stupid shit like that?
No, not really. But before you go, like you have to do like some health screenings and stuff. And they're like, you have to take your malaria pills every single day. It's like taking a malaria pill for 2.5 years. Um, and a lot of stuff like, oh, don't swim in like freshwater lakes and don't eat this. And but honestly, I didn't get sick when I was there.
Mm.
Like I think there's this misconception of like you're gonna go somewhere and you're gonna get malaria and you're gonna get all this. And like, I mean, stuff happens, but for the most part, like everything was pretty pretty chill.
So, like you said, that's your first time in Africa. Did you suffer from culture shock or anything like something weird that you're like, holy crap, this is different?
You know what? I didn't. I find like the concept of culture shock, like you go somewhere and you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. I didn't have that. Like
Mm.
there was nothing dramatic about it. It wasn't like there was definitely obviously it's a whole other universe there. There's so many things that are different in life here in North America. But like I feel like for someone who hasn't traveled very much or hasn't seen that, they might be like shocked by a lot of things. Like, but it wasn't, there's you're on the road and right away there's like people on the road and like tons of traffic and there's goats and cows and dogs and all sorts of crazy things like that you're just seeing like straight off the bat. But no, I think culture shock wise, like there was nothing dramatic for me. And I think like there's a few reasons for that. Since this is a podcast about immigrants and immigration, like I think, I talked about it with you last time, like I'm the child of Indian immigrants. And so growing up, some of my first trips in my life were to India. So, we stayed in a village setting and I experienced what it's like to be in a developing place. Those were some of the first instances of like global travel that I've ever had. And so, I'm not saying it's exactly the same, but there's a lot of similarities in that. And then like you mentioned, like I've traveled a lot in the last 10 years, probably like 35 countries or something like that, And so the more you travel, the less shocking things become to you because you realize like most of the world is not like North America.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. And I mean, something that I was thinking about in terms of culture shock, I think like being the child of an immigrant or even being an immigrant yourself, like, and you can tell me what you think, I think you become really good at adapting, right? Like we're constantly adapting. Like I have to adapt to Western culture and life here, and I have to adapt to like my culture of being Indian, and like we're constantly adapting. Like that's our identity. Like what do you think about? Like what do you think about that?
Yeah, we're very adaptable, like we're like chameleons because we know it's. So I don't know. I start reading about this and start seeing about it like survival mode. You know what I mean? If that makes sense, like we get into a different country and like, oh shit, survival mode. It's time to go. We need to find work. We need to find shelter. We need to find this. We need to find that. And going to your point is like, the more you do it, like you travel a lot. You get used to it. It's like muscle memory. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is the exercise. Oh, that's what we're gonna do. Okay, we're gonna do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you're just like even you. I mean, you moved here when you were how old were you again?
I was 20, turning 21.
So then you had to adapt to this whole new life here, right? And like all the
Yeah, I
things
did. But you know what, dude? I told you before, it's like I've been waiting to migrate. I've been waiting to immigrate. I always
yeah.
like felt like I love the Philippines and I'm a Filipino and I'm a proud Filipino, but I always felt like growing up there, like I don't belong here. I should go somewhere else. The way I think, it's so different. So when I came here, yeah, there was still, things like culture shock, as they say, but I was fairly okay compared to most people. I remember like if I was like new here, like a few months, and people were saying like, "Were you born here?" And like, no, I wasn't born here, dude. I'm like, I came like I just got off
Really?
the boat, and like,
If you were born here?
Yeah, even today, people are like, you're not born here. I thought you were born. Like, no, dude, I have the accent. I have
What the
everything.
hell? What the hell? I'm brown, and people are like, "Really? You're born here?"
I, do- to be honest, it happens, once in a while there still,
It's
but I'm
funny.
like, it boggles my mind. That's why I lean more on my accent because, like, no, 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 dude, I have some spice in me. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, you still have to adapt. You still have to, like, again, like survival mode, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think we're just good at adapting, and I'm like, I wonder, like you have a lot of listeners that are immigrants or children of immigrants. Like I would love to hear like what people think. Like, do you think you're better at adapting to new things and new situations because like that's what you just do your whole life?
Mhm.
Like, because I mean, even just like thinking about people who have come to visit us out in Kenya, like I think for people like they think of it as like something so like it's crazy for them to think of like traveling to Africa, think of them to travel to Kenya, to this place where they never thought. Like I think like my husband's parents were his mom was like kind of nervous about going there, and then even a lot of people that I know there, their parents are nervous about visiting them, whereas my parents, like they knew Kenya, they know there's lots of Indians there, there's a big Indian population there. They know what living in they know what it looks like in a developing nation. And so when they came, everything was pretty chill. Like they just took everything in stride. Like it seemed like they felt quite at home. Like they're not shocked to see any of the things that I think someone would be shocked to see, like the amount of people in the roads and like the trash and the animals and seeing slums and like this like inequality and street vendors and everything that there is to see, like good
Mhm.
and bad, like which, here we don't see. And so for them, I think it was just like, okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
this
there's
is
always
what
something to
this is
compare
like
it to.
India.
Yeah, honestly, but even when I tell my friends certain things that I would find amusing, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's like India." Like there's a point of reference for like a lot of children of immigrants or like who are immigrants who have lived in places like this. Again, it's not the same, but there's similarities.
Yeah, because it, like you said, it's a developing country. Going to that point, as we know, there are immigrants that came from rich countries. I'll say, right, like England going to Canada, which I never understand. Like, yo, you're like you're in paradise. Why would you fucking transfer to another paradise? It doesn't make sense to me.
Oh my god. I was like, what? England is paradise?
No, I mean, like, hey, compared to poor country, like, like where I'm from, you know what I mean? Like, why would you transfer again?
Okay, what are you getting at?
Okay, my what I'm getting at is, like, do you think immigrants that came from third world country going to a G8 country, as they say, are more resilient and more adaptable compared to people that are immigrants that are from G8 country going to a third world country or another country?
Hmm. I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, like for me, I mean, for me, I didn't immigrate there. I was an expat there, but I went from quote unquote G8 country to, you know, I don't even know if it's okay to say developing country anymore. But
Just say it anyway. Who cares?
um it's different because you go there with money and you go there with privilege.
Mm,
So it is different. And I think
yeah.
we talked about this last time too, right? Like
Mhm.
coming and having to create your whole life where you're not in that position of privilege, that obviously is a hell of a lot more difficult and requires more adaptability and strength.
Yeah. Yeah. So, did you get homesick in Kenya?
No.
So cruel.
I know it sounds cruel, but no, I don't get homesick. And I know some people do, and it's a normal and common experience, but it's not something I relate to very much because, like, even when I traveled Southeast Asia for like 3 months, and even then, I didn't get homesick. And then even this entire time I was in Kenya, like, I didn't get homesick. And I know it's a feeling more than anything, but like my logic with this whole thing was like it was a temporary posting. I always knew I was returning to Canada. Like even when I was
Mm.
traveling, I always knew I was returning to Canada. So in my head, it was like, what's the point of like missing home? Like everything you're missing is gonna be there when you get back. So like I know like some people there, they were like, oh, I miss being with my family on Christmas. Like, all right, I get that, but like, you're gonna go home in 2 years and your family Christmases are still kind of gonna be there. Um
I should start calling you Elsa. You're cold, girl.
I don't know. It's just like when I go places or when I'm somewhere, I like to like just immerse myself in the experience, be present in the moment, and be present in the experience of what it is. Like even like for example, like Christmas. I know like Christmas is a hard time for some people who are living abroad and they're away from their family. For me, I'm like, I'm going to the beach. I'm going to spend Christmas or my birthday, which is usually spent like my birthday's in December too. Like when it's usually snow, I was like, I'm gonna embrace it and like just be somewhere and do something cool. Like be like out, outdoors, go on a safari, go out to the beach, like stuff that you are not gonna get to do
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
2 or 3 years when you get back. So yeah, I really like I think the best thing you can do when you are traveling or being abroad is just like immersing yourself in the experience and taking advantage of things that you wouldn't be able to do um, back home.
Yeah, I get it. But I hope you don't mind me sharing it. But I remember we're talking one time where you were still in Kenya and you were saying like you were getting fed up of Kenya a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I love my time in Kenya. Like if someone was like, here's a ticket, you can go back, like I would go back. Um, it's an incredible, incredible place to live. Like I just want to say some of the reasons why it's so incredible before
Mm,
why I tell you I
sure,
was
yeah.
stressful because I don't want people to think about Kenya or think about Africa and be like, oh, that's somewhere where I don't want to travel. It is absolutely worth like it is I mean, maybe I'm biased because I live there, but it really is the top place that I have traveled. Like, and Kenya specifically, like Nairobi is the main city. It's literally called Green City in the sun. Like, it's just green. It's green 365 days a year. And coming from a cold country where it snows a lot and it's gray a lot, like that was just the biggest breath of fresh air that I could have ever had in my life. 365 days of greenery, pretty much 365 days of sunshine. Like incredible. So the climate there is incredible as well. It's like I think also people have this misconception. Africa is so hot. Like, hey man, Africa is an entire continent. You can't say an entire continent is hot. Like, what is why? um, yeah, maybe there are countries or cities or places where it is hot, but like for example in Nairobi, it was around mid 20s, no humidity pretty much the whole year.
There's no like rainy season, no.
There is rainy seasons, but like even in they don't last that long.
There's no typhoons.
No, I don't think so. No, when I was there, no.
Really? Wow. So it's like
I'm there are like I mean there are things that happen, but like and there are the rainy seasons and sometimes they're more intense or less intense. So then you'll have issues with drought or flooding and things like that,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but I think like I said, like people think the weather in quote unquote Africa is hot and unbearable, which is not true. I lived in like the best temperature ever.
Yeah.
The other thing about Kenya is people are super friendly. They're really, really nice. Language, like um, national language, English and Swahili. So like you don't have that. Like I think language is a huge barrier when you're traveling to places where when they don't speak English. So like just eliminating that, like you could basically get by on English, which is amazing. Um, amazing, like if that's somewhere you're going to live and like you don't have that huge hurdle to get over in communication. I mean, Kenya is historically rich, it's culturally rich. Like this is where um, this is the cradle of humanity, actually, right? Like um, on top of that, like you have national parks. Like I can drive a few kilometers from my house and see lions and rhinos and stuff. You have these museums, you have this like really these amazing crafts and artisans and like the restaurant scene was amazing and the party scene was amazing. Pre-COVID, you know, maybe even during COVID, I don't know, but I was not part of that. But just to say, like, it was really cool to be there. But yeah, some parts of being in Kenya were extremely frustrating, especially in the last year because we were there for the full year and because of COVID, like we were not allowed to pretty much leave the country. So, and I think people who have lived like in other countries, in developing places, they can kind of relate to this because I've talked to friends about it. Where like, you just have to accept that things are gonna go wrong,
or not gonna work,
or not work. Something's gonna happen. Like you just have to go out in the world every single day expecting that not gonna be a smooth day, which I think people in North America are not used to. You're like, I had such a bad day. I was stuck in traffic and this happened and that happened. That's just life there. Like, you know, I think things just kind of start to wear on you with some time. Like if you're constantly like having things go wrong, like I'll give you an example. I wanted to get a dining table made. So I went to the store and I saw this beautiful dining table and I was like, oh, wow, like I'll buy it. Here, take my money. And they're like, okay, we're going to have someone make it for you. So then someone made it, but they made a completely different dining table.
What the fuck?
It was like not even the same color. It did not look the same. Like it's just, and then like the back and forth of this thing was like 6 weeks long. And finally it got like delivered to our place with this like giant spot of varnish right in the middle of just stupid things like that. Things like that are like constantly happening. And then like sitting in traffic and like, I think traffic was one of the things that was probably hardest for me to be there. My husband, he like totally owned that. He was like, because it's driving on the other side of the road on top of it, driving in a bigger vehicle and like very defensive. Because like I said, the roads are filled with kids, goats, dogs, motorcycle, cats, potholes. So like literally every time we would go out for a drive, it's like just escaping death. Either someone else's death or your own death, like stuff like that.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I mean, there's things like that, and like even the fact that, I mean, life goes at a different pace there. It's very slow pace of life, which takes some getting used to, especially coming from North America where everything is quite quick. So like no one's in a rush to bring you your food at a restaurant. No one's in a rush to give you your bill at the end of the meal. No one's in a rush to even like bring you like there's just no rush for anything. Like it's just polepole, slowly.
That's what they say?
Yes.
I just want to add on the restaurant because when I went back to the Philippines, so we went to a restaurant and so we ordered and then, you know, like we were waiting and then the waiter come back and says, oh, excuse me, sir, but we don't have fresh crabs. We only have the ones that are in the freezer. And I'm like, when did you kill the crab? When did you put it in the freezer? I'm like, oh, just last night. I'm like, for me, as a North American thinker, that's fresh, right? But then my cousin goes up to me and says, no, they don't have it fresh, like alive. And I'm like, oh shit, oh yeah, that is fresh here in the Philippines. But in Canada, I'll say, is like, if it's in the freezer, it's fresh, right? And everywhere we go, whatever restaurant we go, is like easily 30 minutes to 45 minutes wait.
Oh
For
yeah.
the...
Oh yeah. Absolutely. It's like you have to eat before you go to a restaurant. Like if you're hungry. It's just like you're just like, what are they doing? Are they growing the food? Like, did someone, I swear once in India, and like this is how I felt like in Kenya as well. But I remember the story from India. And we went to a restaurant and we ordered masala dosas, so it's like a potato filling dish. And we're waiting. My dad's like getting pissed because, my dad's been in Canada for a long time too. He like cannot deal with this shit. He's like, what's taking so long? Oh yeah, the guy went out to buy potatoes. Like and that's good. And that's what was going on in the background of like Kenyan restaurants too. This is funny. So anyways, that's to say, like, there are some frustrations like that. Like, just you're like, can I just go somewhere and can it just go smoothly? Like, why do I need to like go and hunt down a waiter? And why do I need to like be so specific about what I need? And why are people like not socially distancing in the grocery store? Like, just things are like, I think that time that I was talking to you, we were like literally on the road and this like truck just stopped in the middle of the road and starts unloading rocks, like just stops traffic on both sides and just like unloading rocks. And we're just sitting there. And I was like, oh my God, can I just get home? We weren't even far from home either. But just stupid things, which now I look back on like very fondly, actually.
Yeah, it's actually the best stories, right?
Yeah, it's funny. You're like, all right.
Yeah, again, like going back to my experience visiting the Philippines, is like there's this road that I grew up passing by. It's a busy road, It's they call it a highway, but really here it's not really a highway, And for some reason they expanded the road to give more space, right? But I remember that the road was before they expanded it. There are like electrical poles. Okay. These people expanded the road but didn't move the poles. So the poles are in the middle of one of the lanes. I'm like, what the? You can't even pass.
Yeah. I can totally relate to that. I was like, oh yeah, that sounds normal.
But you know what I mean? Like, why do that? Like, why do that? But I like what you said. Like you said, like, just expect craziness.
Yeah, just expect craziness. And like the thing is, it's fun, but it can wear on you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the frustrating bit out of it. But like, I mean, would I live there? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think like it was just important to, I mean, it was great because like, even if the city got too much, we're like, fine, we're going to go to the countryside for like a weekend and kind of get away from the hustle and bustle of the city, because it is a big city and it's a lot of noise and it's a lot of commotion and stuff. So.
Did you ever feel unsafe?
Not really. So, like, actually, I don't know if I mentioned, but we were there as diplomats. So we were there with certain privileges and some perks, like I lived in a nice gated community and there was guards standing outside my house.
With guns.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
what's
definitely.
funny? What's funny? When we got back here, we're like, we haven't seen anyone carry a gun in a long time. These like giant machine guns, like guys are just walking around with them all the time. And then when we came back here, and we joke with each other, we're like, we don't feel safe at all here. Why is there no security with giant machine guns?
That's so funny. I love that.
Yeah, so I mean, and there's like a very big expat community in Kenya. And so you're often hanging out in those circles. And like typically I didn't find I felt in danger or unsafe anywhere. I was never in those situations.
Mm.
There was this one thing that happened though. We were like in the central business district one time and we didn't take our car. So our cars are like red plated when you're there as a diplomat. So you kind of get less hassling from cops and security and stuff like that. But like we were like in the central business district and we had just hired a driver and we were there. And then this like man just like gets in the car. First, this lady starts yelling. She's like, "Why did you cross here? Why did you park here? Why did you park here?" And she's like yelling at the driver. And then this man just like gets in the passenger side of the car. And we're like, who are you? Like, why are you in our car? And he's like, I'm with city council. I'm with city council. I was like, what the F does that fucking mean? What do you mean you're with city council? And he's like flashing me this card. And I was like,
Yeah.
and he's like, yeah, we're gonna like you guys were illegally parked here and we're taking you to the police station and like, yeah, all this like stupid shit. Like obviously it was a scam just to
Mhm.
get money out of us. So we're like, get the hell out of the car.
So did he get out of the car?
Yeah, we had to pay him off.
You paid him off?
Yeah, he would
Yo,
not
why
get out of
didn't
the
you ask
car
your white husband to call the white people?
because yeah, I like that. Just like ignore that. Well, you see. We should have there was ways to get around this, but we just kind of wanted it to be over.
Mhm.
So we're like, here, take some money and get out. And that worked. So it's not like even that I felt unsafe, but it was like this like experience where like, oh my God, what's happening? Why are you in my car? And then him and like the driver were talking in Swahili, and then the driver wouldn't tell us like what was going on. So it's just like, fine, I'm gonna get out of the car. I will walk home from here. But yeah, it typically no, I didn't feel unsafe while I was there.
Mm-hmm. Did you go to the mall?
Yes. We
Okay,
like
when you go to the
everything is in
mall,
the
do
mall
you have
there.
like a bodyguard or something?
No, nothing like that.
You just go by yourself or with Mark?
Yeah.
You don't have like,
Everything is in the mall. The grocery stores in the mall, the movie theaters in the mall, the restaurants in the
yeah.
mall, the gym is in the mall. Everything is in the mall.
Yeah.
I think I've ever spent so much time in a mall. Like, and then there's tons and they're beautiful. They're like these outdoor malls and like it's just there's a lot of malls have nothing in them. But yeah, no, it's not you don't need like security.
Okay.
You get there's security guards at the mall. So like when you drive up to so one of the frustrating things, like something that took me some time to get used to is like you drive to the mall because you need milk and you drive up to the parking and then they search your car.
Mhm.
So they'll search your whole car, then you go and you park, then you enter the mall and then they do a search of you again. So metal detectors and scanning your bag.
Yeah. Wait, as you know, like a few years ago, there was like something that happened in Kenya in a mall. There was a
Yeah.
shooting. Was it
Yeah.
that in your mind somehow, or you're just like whatever?
Well, that is why there's so much security. There was like that big terrorist attack that happened. And that's why security is more in the malls and stuff. And that's why you're always getting checked, which is kind of annoying, but I guess it's good in a way. Yeah, I mean, I guess it was in my mind a little bit. Like I've been to that mall a bunch of times. And it's just like, oh my God, it's crazy to think that something like that happened here.
Oh,
And
that
it's
exact
affecting,
mall?
yeah. And like everyone there has like a story kind of related to that, like they knew someone there. Like so, but no, I didn't feel worried or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. So you're back in Canada.
Yes.
How do you feel?
I miss it terribly. It's been a really hard adjustment.
Yeah. How?
Yeah. I think there was a lot of parts of living there, and like for me personally and my circumstances of living there, um, that were so like aligned with what I value and what I love, that it made for a really nice life for me. And it was a life in which I felt like I really flourished. So coming back here, I mean, like it's as if like I spent 2.5 years like building a life for myself, one that I fit into and making friends and building a life. And then all of a sudden that's gone. And now I'm back here and it's like you have to restart.
Mm.
Even though this is technically home, it almost feels like restarting.
It is restarting,
Yeah,
you know. Yeah, you still have family here and friends, but really, you gotta build yourself personally again and professionally as well.
exactly. Exactly. I mean, I'd love to tell you some of the reasons why I loved being there so much and how it differs so much
Yeah,
from
tell me
here
more. Yeah,
for
for sure.
me. I mean, I think one of the things that I miss the most is like connection to nature.
Mm.
I think it's something like in North American life is seriously lacking. Uh, like there, every morning I'd wake up, I'd like literally open up my two back doors. The doors were open all day long in my house. You'd like, and then that leads to like a seating area, and then beyond that is like the garden, and you have these amazing flowers, and you have like these exotic birds outside, and we had a banana tree. Like living in North America, and you have a banana tree. Like, oh my god, we used to go pick avocados in our like neighbor's front yard. Like just
Mm.
literally eating fruit off of your land, which I mean, like people are doing here, like with their gardens and things like that. But like just having that connection to outdoors and like you're just barefoot. At the end of the day, your feet are dirty.
Mm.
Like I love that. I love that so much. Like I find things here very sterile. I find you can easily spend your entire day indoors without ever going outside.
Yeah, God bless the internet.
Right? Like you're in your office 8, 9 hours a day, and then you get in your car and then you drive home and then you spend the night. Like, did I even get any fresh air today?
That's why I
There's a
love
lot.
hiking.
Yeah, exactly. That's why, like, when you live in North America, you have to be very intentional about spending time outdoors.
Oh, I like
Whereas
that.
there,
Yeah.
whereas there, it just happens. You're just always outside. Like even like I said, the malls are outside, and restaurants, everything is outdoors. Um, Everything's outdoors. Like I never hung out inside, which was a big thing during COVID, actually, because we had the ability to just sit outside and sit distance from our friends, like
Mm.
either in public or in our backyards the whole year. So it was like a huge factor in the quality of life.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Um,
I agree with that.
yeah, I think another thing related to nature is like the animals. Like even like in our backyard in our neighborhood, we would see like incredible birds. Um, and then, like I said, you drive an hour, you drive like 5 hours, and you're in some of the most beautiful places on the planet.
Hmm.
Like you are seeing wildlife that people dream about seeing, and that's like 5 hours from your house. It's crazy to think. And you're connected to these animals. And like even our last trip, like last ditch effort before we came here, we went to Rwanda. 1 hour flight to Rwanda. Spent 3 days there. Went up to the Virunga Mountains, went hiking, and went to see gorillas.
Yeah, this
Like
is. You told me about this. I'm like, yo, be careful with those bastards.
it was amazing. And it's just like to be constantly connected to animals and wildlife like that, I think it's like very, very important part of reminding us that like we're all connected. We
Mm.
all exist on this planet together. We're all in this interconnected ecosystem. Like life is not just about us. We can't just like only care about ourselves and live in a bubble without like understanding that what we do affects other living creatures on this earth.
I
And I
agree.
think like when you live here in North America and you don't leave, you don't travel, you don't have that connection to nature, that can get lost.
Yeah, I completely agree. I know people that like work and I don't know, like stay home, work, stay home. Like, yo, dude. Well, yes, obviously there are people that incapable monetarily of doing something, but there are people that I personally know that are capable of going places or go hiking or go hire Airbnb close to the lake. They don't. They just work and then home, work and home.
But and it's like one of these things that are like just fundamental to living like a really like healthy and balanced life. And so I think like being there and having access to animals and outdoors and greenery and wildlife and whatever, like that was so, and it's very easy. It wasn't like, I need to like go hiking this weekend to see nature. No, literally at my footstep, like literally I opened the door and here's like this wildlife. So that was a big thing. I think even connections to people. I think here it's really like, especially now, like with work from home and stuff, like you can go weeks and weeks and weeks without seeing anyone.
Yeah.
And there I felt like, even if I wasn't hanging out with people, like I still saw people. Like I said, there was the guards outside my house. When you go to the mall, you'd go through security check. You're saying hi to people on the roads. You see people, like there is life happening. And even the culture there is like that. It's very lots of connection, like family spirit and taking care of each other. And then even within the expat community, like we would be like, oh, we're bored. Let's call someone over to come have a drink. And because people are there without, their families and their obligations, all these things, people are like, yeah, cool. Let's hang out. Let's chill. I love that shit. I love when people are free to hang out and chill. Because I find over here, and I don't fault anyone for this. I understand life is really busy here. But here it's like, okay, well, I can't do this weekend. But what about this day? Oh, no, I can't. What about this day? It's like constant, like trying to fit schedules around each other, which I think a lot of people can relate to. So I think like that was really nice for me. Like I love interacting socially. So it's really nice when people are like, yeah, let's hang out. Let's talk.
But these people, do they have work full time or do they have kids?
Yeah.
And they still like hang out, like, yeah, I'll hang out with you right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess they have nannies and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. All right. People here wants to hang out too. Most of the people, but there are people that wants to hang out, but they couldn't because they don't have the family
that's
support.
what I mean. Like it's not anyone's fault.
Like exactly.
That's just the way life is here.
But like again, me, an immigrant, we are so close to our family. Like even right now, I want to, like you say, oh, let's go for a drink. I can go right now because I could call anyone in my family and say, hey, watch my kids. It won't be a problem.
I know. I've heard that. Like I've had other friends tell me that. One of my Filipino friends.
Yeah.
She's like, everyone's there to like help you. And I was like, that's beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm really proud of my family. But yes, you are correct because everyone's so, it's a cliche, but everyone's in a rat race. Like everyone's to like chasing something. Right, that they forget about the connection that you're talking about with the family and with friends, even sometimes like you literally like you said, like oh Shital, can you do next week Saturday? Oh no, you can't. Let's do Friday. Oh, I can't do Friday. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So again, like I'm not faulting anyone. Like I just think this is what it is. In this setting here in North America, like everyone's working like a typical 9 to 5. Everyone's got a few hours at the end of the day to spend with their family and do what they got to do. And then they have their 2 days off. Whereas like the people that I was meeting out there, they had a lot more like flexibility with their jobs, or they were over there and they started their own businesses. So they were like open to meeting for lunch. They're open into meeting at different times of the day. Like, it's just a lot more, it felt a lot more natural and
Mm-hmm.
normal.
Okay. So with that point that you're saying, based on your experience generally, do you
Mm.
think Kenyans are happier people than North American people or Canadians?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I'm not Kenyan, so I can't really say.
Yeah, I know,
Uh,
but it's your experience, based on your experience.
I think, listen, there's obviously challenges for people there.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be like, oh yeah, they're living life like amazingly and they're so much better off than us. Like I can't say that. Um, but there's challenges everywhere, you know. I do find people there typically like, they're friendly, they're nice, they smile,
Yeah.
um, they like to party. Like
Mm.
there's this like joie de vivre like that's there.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone's like up to dance,
Mm-hmm.
everyone's up to party. There's this certain like joy that I do notice. But is it all like roses and sunshine for everybody? No, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah, because that's why the reason they want to immigrate, right? Like Kenyans wants to immigrate to Canada. You know what I
Well,
mean?
listen, like everything I'm talking about, like I said, it's like my personal experience based on my circumstance and the fact that I was able to go there and be and live a very privileged life.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Like I mean, I worked in programs like helping to set up kitchen gardens and stuff for children in school because a lot of kids would go to school without food or have their families would have issues accessing food affordably. I was also working with that charity, and one of our programs was distributing like little solar lights in regions that don't have electricity.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also this whole other part of this experience that I had. Like, yes, I lived this really nice life and it was very privileged. But that doesn't mean I don't recognize that, a lot of people are living in difficult times and circumstances. But what was nice is that I was able to do something to help.
Yeah, that's the Nancy Foundation, right?
Nancy Ellen Crooks Foundation, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think even going there, like being in that position, like it was important and it was good to go there and create employment for people, right? Like, yeah, you have a maid, you have a nanny or driver or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but at least we're going there and using our privilege to do something, right? Like creating employment, treating people with respect, dignity, giving them extra money, all those sorts of things.
Well, they make you fat with their food.
Anyways, so I mean, those are some of the things, like a lot of connection, I think, was what I loved so much about being there and what I think is kind of lacking here. And I also like just the opportunity to travel, to experience new things. Like I thrive on new experiences. Like that is the stuff that makes me feel alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, like we would literally be like, hey, should we go to the beach this weekend? And we could like take a 1 hour flight for $100 and go be on the Indian Ocean, which is amazing. Like it's just stuff that I only fantasize about here. There's a lot of aspects of life there that was just like very much in line with what I loved very much. So I'm finding it hard to be here and kind of missing out on those things. Yeah, home is where you feel most like yourself.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And that was me there.
Yeah,
it's like what you said, where you were like in the Philippines and you're like, you knew that's not where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. But yeah. I mean, I love Canada. It's funny because that's how I felt when I was growing up. Then I moved here. Yes, I feel at home here. But when I visit, I'm like, it's like if I could make a video of a short movie about myself, there's like my ancestors singing and speaking in my language and just not talking to me, but talking to my soul. And it was just a different feeling. I'm like, this is home. This is right here. This is home. Yes, I do still feel at home in Canada. I do. But it's like, I love spaghetti, right? But
Okay.
if my dad cook my favorite Filipino food, I'm not just eating it physically. I'm eating it physically and with my soul as well. Like I feel it.
Yeah.
Like I've never taken drugs, but I'm pretty sure that's how it feels. It's like I'm taking drugs when I eat Filipino food.
So, so do you still feel like I belong in Canada, but like your heart is in the Philippines? Is that what it is? Where so like I just said, home is where you are most yourself. Where are you most yourself?
It's different. I am different. I love Canada. I'm different. But it's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's just like, it's there. A Canadian Aaron and the Filipino Aarons are two different people,
Yeah, I feel like that.
right?
I feel like I was a different person there.
Yeah. Also, I'm gonna ask you.
Yeah.
After coming back from Kenya, you said you felt weird that everyone acted like you didn't just came back from Kenya. What do you mean by that?
Okay, so I researched this, and apparently it's a very normal thing, and people have also told us this.
Hmm.
People, and like if anyone's listening and they've been abroad and come back home, or lived abroad and come back home, um, or going to, like, something that you have to prepare for is that people don't care all that much about your experience abroad. They just know. Um, they they do. They ask some questions, but like I think like when you've been away for so long and you've gone through so much and you've grown and you've expanded and your perspectives have changed and you've had all these things to think about and all these experiences, like you can't ever really like tell everyone all of that, you
Mm.
know? And at some point people do like kind of don't care about hearing about Kenya all the time. I feel like sometimes I get really annoying. I feel like for the next like million years, I'm just gonna be like, when I lived in Kenya, like all of my sentences are gonna start that way. Um, no, but really, like you go and you're like, oh yeah, it was good, and you tell them like a few things, and then it's business as usual.
Mm.
Anyways, so actually, um, this is really nice to be able to sit and talk to you like
Of
this.
course.
Like, thank you for holding space. Like you've been doing this for a year, and I think it's amazing. Like, week after week, you hold space for people to tell their stories, and it's a very validating experience.
Thank you. I appreciate that, man. Like I really do. But I just like talking shit. I just love hearing stories. I just
Well,
love.
look at this. Like, we've been talking for an hour, and I'm able to tell you about my experience and my feelings and my thoughts. Like, that is like you holding space, not just for me, but for all of your guests. And I think that's very, very special. And that's probably like why people want to come on your podcast, man. Like,
Thank you.
everyone wants to feel heard and seen,
Hmm.
and you are providing them with that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So,
Yeah. But again, like I said, I'm selfish. I just want to talk shit.
I know, I know. Um, yeah, so there's that, like people don't care that much, but then again, on the flip side, you don't care that much either about like what's been going on here. It's bad, but it's true. I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah, I completely understand. It's people
Yeah.
are selfish.
Everyone wants to talk about themselves, right? Like
Hells yeah.
that's
You
just the
know.
human experience. It's
Yeah.
fine. I think a challenge also like of coming home is just like I said, you're just missing being abroad so much.
Mm.
Like I miss it so much that I almost feel like I'm just like resistant to change.
Right now.
Like I don't want to adapt back to this culture. Like, I keep messaging you and be like, oh, this place is trash. And you're like, people want to live here, man. I was like, I know, I'm talking shit.
I
But
know, I know. And
like
also, sorry, go ahead.
you just come back and you feel a little critical about home. You get frustrated with like um things here. Like I am very, again, like cognizant of the fact that, this I live a really great life here.
Mhm.
Um privileged and I'm grateful and all that, but still, like, that's not the point. The point is that, like, going through this like huge change. So I think it is quite normal to feel kind of frustrated with life here, especially when you've adapted to another culture, another life.
Yeah. But to your defense though, I remember when we used to talk in person, you always wanted to travel. I always had this feeling like you don't belong here, Shital. Go somewhere else and be happy. I love that you're here. I miss you when you're not here, but go somewhere else. I want you to be happy. That's why I mentioned it on our first podcast. Is like you're different. You're happier.
Yeah.
You know?
I know. I belong out there in the world. I really do. I feel that. I think I've known that for a long time. And you know what? I'm going to embrace the time that I'm here. But like I said, like I feel I'm the type of person that needs to have like a lot of experiences. And constantly, like I really feel like I thrive like that. Like I feel like I'm always like trying to make sense of the world, and the way that I do that is by having experiences. That's why I love traveling so much. And so I definitely see myself like, going back out there
Yeah.
at some point.
I hope
Hopefully.
so, because again, like I told you, I miss you when you're not here, but you drive me nuts because you're like, dude, it sucks here. I'm like, bro, I came
I
from the
know.
Philippines. I moved here.
I'm like such a negative Nelly when I'm here.
No, you're not. It's just like, when you're like, you don't feel comfortable. You don't, you don't, you want to do other things. You want to be somewhere else, It's not like Canada's bad for you or anything. It doesn't fit you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, there was so many aspects of like living life there that like it just felt really aligned with who I am. Like it felt good. Like I was like very much in the flow, very much vibing. That's, I was able to do so much while I was there because of that.
I'm happy for you. But,
Thank
obviously you're happy in Kenya, but do you like really traveling, driving while goats are passing by and people dropping off trucks in front of you? You know what I mean? Like, have you seen Canada? It's amazing. It's gorgeous here.
You're like, why are the streets so quiet?
Yeah, why
Why
is it so
are people
smooth?
respecting traffic lights here? I don't understand.
Why is everybody wearing masks?
Why are we yielding to pedestrians?
Instead of breaking the red light and hopefully no one hits you.
Oh yeah, red lights, like traffic lights are not like Trevor Noah is even like Africa. No, like they don't do traffic lights.
Yeah. I remember listening to this author, and he said that one sign of a great country is a stop sign, a working stop sign,
Okay.
because everybody respects the stop sign. Imagine, is there a stop sign in Kenya?
No, I don't
Yeah,
think
and
so.
if there is, no one's gonna listen anyway.
You're like, what is this thing?
Exactly,
I love the chaos. I love that like chaotic, like you know what? Like I've traveled a lot. My favorite places are the places that are chaotic.
Do I like chaos like you? I love chaos in a certain way, but not. Okay, I remember when I traveled again, is that the chaos got to me. And I was like, bro, I need to go back to Canada. I'm done with this shit. But as soon as I left, I'm like, I want to go back.
But that's what I was talking about before, right? Like things that are frustrating and you're like, I can't deal with this anymore, but then you like miss it after. It's like a bit of a thrill, actually.
It is. But the best stories are the ones that are the most frustrating or annoying. Those are the ones that you'll remember. Because, like you said, yeah, I go to the beach. Oh, that was amazing. We sat down and we drink our mojitos, whatever you drink, That's cool. But how about this truck that just unloaded this pile of rocks in front of you for whatever reason,
Oh yeah. Yeah, stories like that. The time that I got stuck in like a overnight traffic jam.
Overnight traffic jam.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
That's,
right. You're absolutely right. It's just all the stories that were was like frustrating. And that's why I'm always like, I have this way of thinking that like when things go wrong, I'm like, all right, well, just another story to tell.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I love that. Anyways, we're getting there. But I have one more question before we say goodbye.
Alrighty.
So what's in store for Shital? What's her plan?
Interesting question. Well, okay. Well, one of the things that I was able to do while I was living abroad is work for a charity. And in that charity, I was doing a lot of their marketing. So I started doing like press releases and revamping their newsletter and social media and rewriting websites. And I realized I love this. And so what I did is I did some courses on copywriting. And I learned all about copywriting and what it takes and the psychology behind it and formulas and frameworks and all that type of stuff. And I started doing freelance copywriting while I was there, which was very exciting because my background is actually, I mean, it's in business. But now I'm taking it into marketing. And so I started freelancing, and I'm hoping, I can continue doing that while I'm here.
That's awesome. Again, Shital, thank you for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. And I'm glad that you're back in Canada because I missed you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And
Sure.
It's great to be back so that we can, I mean, not that we ever stop chatting, really, but, it's 2021. We got technology. But...
Yeah, for sure. And have a good evening.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Again, Shital, thank you for coming on the podcast. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, listeners. This is Aaron Deliosa for An Immigrant's Life. I'll see you guys later.